What is up? We're coming at you from the shop today to show you the new Rocketship Chassis fixture that we're working on. We're just getting started on it, but let's go take a look. I actually really enjoy looking at it at this stage of the game. It's really cool because on this chassis, that is not the undercarriage and we still have to build up from there. That is where your seats are going to mount.
The seating position in a rocket ship is great. You literally end up with about 3/4 of an inch between the bottom of the seat and the actual belly pan tube work. It gives you a really planted, stable feeling. It's like when you're driving a sports car and you're sitting closer to the ground, you feel like you can drive faster than you do when you're driving an F-150 that you're sitting in an upright seating position up over top of it. Right now, we're pretty much done with the belly pan lower frame rail section of the build out. So you can see all the cross members are in, link gussets, belly pan tube work. Your main sway bar tube is already located and the front frame rails have started taking shape. The next real move on this is going to be adding the next layer of fixturing to it. You'll see this grow up and kind of out with towers that run around the outside and set A pillars, B pillars. The front shock hoops will mount off of these fixtures up here and get set. I'm an old school builder and I'm actually putting this one together. I bend every tube as I go to make sure everything fits exactly like it's supposed to. Yeah, so looking at the fixture like as it is on the table, the instruction booklet picks up and it shows like these tubes are already in place, so they've turned black. As you're adding another tube or part to the fixture, it turns red in the picture, so you can see that you're adding this and it has design notes and things to follow along with it. And as you scroll down, it tells you the part you're adding, a color chart to show you what they are, and then there's instructions on how to clean it up, and then the actual instruction for placing it in there will tell you what to tack, where you're welding, what you're smoothing out, and how you're following along. Each part is labeled out and those parts correspond to a drag and cut list that the text can follow, so that as they're cutting all the parts are labeled on them, what they are and where they go. And each step has those same names that you'll see in the cut list to be able to follow along with it and just have good consistency all the way through the project that you're working on. Going to profile 2 tubes out right now and get them cut.
Is that to get a good Sharpie mark?
Yep, got every tube nice and clean. We don't etch any tubes here. I don't like the way you got to sand it all back out to get it to go to powder coat. You run the risk of leaving etch marks and then missing them on final cleanup. That's pretty impressive, ain't it? To take a tube straight out of the Dragon, put it in the bender, and it go into the fixture that cleanly, I'm pretty happy with where we're at now.
The reason that we went ahead and slugged this one in, whenever you're hitting at full bump, you're so much tremendous force is going right through almost to the center of this tube. And we don't want to give any reason for that tube to try to buckle or crumple over. So we sleeve that completely solid. So now you have a solid force that comes to here. Centered up just right. Is right there to the inside of that notch there. So whenever I put a weld all the way around there, it's sitting on the tube itself. There is no weak point from the end of that notch all the way to the end of this notch right here.
So we dropped the tube size down on a lot of our lace bars to 1.25 inches. It does help save weight. To me, it looks better in the chassis. You don't need that bigger tube a lot of time. We don't put any lacing bars in that aren't putting force to somewhere else. You know, building the triangles throughout the chassis or whatnot will really make the back end solid on the chassis. There's a few spots in the original Rocketship that I was questionable about, with a big rollover or big power and a hooked up suspension in the lower frame and stuff. I was really worried about would move. Wes has run bolted tires, big power. He's twisted a 40 spline axle shaft. It's not broke. It's actually got a twist in it. He's hooked that thing up hard, and none of that chassis ever moved, so I feel really good about it. So the lacing that we had on the original Rocketship is pretty much what's going right into this thing.
So another thing that makes this chassis really exciting, it's the first Rocketship chassis getting doors. On the purple Grimace buggy, we didn't go with doors, just for simplicity. I'm curious if you're going to still have to get up into the vehicle, or if it being so low, you open the door and you kind of just sit down in it. Really interested to see how it's going to turn out.
What's up?
What you think about this thing right here?
Dude, I'm loving this thing right here. It's wild how much different it looks out of the jig than what it did in the jig.
I mean, what you think about that, eh, Wood?
Or set on one of these Rocketship chassis. I like it. You know, we did the video and we talked about doing suicide doors on this thing, but man, it just didn't work out with the way the chassis was shaped. It just wasn't going to work out with getting in and out of it. But dude, that really fits the side profile of that chassis. Jason killed it on the design work for this thing. He took that over on really putting doors on it, and we brainstormed quite a bit on it because we moved a couple of the tubes where the actual B-pillar come in and connected down to the bottom of the frame rail. We actually moved that in, whether you get a chassis with doors or no doors. Yeah, I really like how that looks though, man. For doors, that's it, that's perfect. I think the next chassis are gonna go faster than this one did, of course, because this was the very first one out of the fixture, but man, we got a heck of a lot. It's a heck of a step in the right direction on building these chassis and getting them done to where they're repeatable, to where we're building just a really good square repeatable chassis that every tube's in the same place every time. That gets us into where we can put interior kits into them and then all the other options that go with them. So yeah, I mean, dude, this right here is the new hot ticket for sure. All right, let's get this thing thrown on a belly jig and get something else happening.